Alright, people. Here we are. This is your ever faithful host of the film review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to our minds. I'm Crazy Dee, and sitting beside me is my ever lovely wife,
Tracey.
And we are here to review a film a little bit different of a review today than we would usually do. We have spanned the gamut of films so far. Some films that people would not think that we would review. You know what I mean? So let's back out here and let's get this on the road, so to speak. Yeah. So we are talking about the film Operation
Finale.
That's right. So tell them first who stars in the film.
It's starring Oscar Isaac, and he plays Peter Malkin. And
so let's break down. Peter Malkin is I guess you could say he is a Israeli agent who goes undercover to smoke out and to arrest, to bring to justice people who were in the Nazi organization as SS soldiers,
right.
And people who were instrumental and responsible for the genocide and the Holocaust of over 6 million Jews, as the story is told. And then so he plays this, and we'll get on him. We'll come back to him. Who else is starring in it?
Ben Kingsley. He plays Adolf Eichmann.
Okay, now Adolf Eichmann is thought of and now goes down in history as the architect of the final solution, which was basically ovening, gassing, and mass extermination of Jews through shooting and leaving them in piles, and basically using them as landfill and covering them in large dugout ditches. Who else is in the film?
The cast is huge.
Yeah, the cast is
There's
huge.
a lot of people, but they're the two starring in the film. And then the third.
Okay, we keep coming in and out, people, so excuse that. Okay, so we've already talked about, let's talk about the grandson one more time.
The grandson is played by Joel Allen, and his character is Klaus Eichmann. He's Adolf Eichmann's
son.
Right.
Son in the picture. You come to find out that Argentina was basically giving what is the word, asylum,
right,
to former SS guards and former Nazi sympathizers and those who were involved in the actual murder of 6 million Jews. They gave asylum, and what you find out in the film is not only were they sympathizers, but they also, many in Argentina, were Nazis and believed the views, the white supremacist racist views of Adolf Hitler. They believed it. So thus and so, they were there, and they gave Adolf Eichmann asylum, and basically would bring reporters over and have these luncheons or dinners where Adolf Eichmann could rewrite history and try to make sure that his side of the story, or the Nazi side of the story, was told differently than what was told during the Nuremberg trials. because there were, by that time, a lot of SS guards and people who were and had been tried in Nuremberg, it is, for crimes against humanity, as far as the extermination of 6 million Jews. So what you find in the film is that Argentina played a big part, and Argentina has people who are Nazi sympathizers, and many still today are, because as the influx of people who believe themselves to be Aryan populated there, and also Jewish people initially escaped there. If they couldn't get to the U.S., they escaped there. So it's a powder keg within the film between Jewish people and the Argentinians who see the Jewish people as strange, because they began to come, and as it's told in the story, they began to open up businesses, and what was once Argentinian then is turned into a Jewish-owned business, and they didn't quite like that. And then once the Nazis came over, who they gave asylum to, helped them change their name, take on new identities, basically hiding them out. Once they came over and started telling their stories about how Jewish people ran the economy in Germany before Adolf Hitler started to expel them around 1939, and then later start to put them in ghettos, and then later exterminate them out, how they ran businesses. So this is giving you some backstory about what the whole story is about and everything. Now, what's interesting about, what's the guy's name again who played the agent?
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac. What's interesting about him is he's not
Jewish. Character.
His character is Jewish,
right?
But in real life, he is not Jewish. What is he?
Guatemalan.
So I mean, so it's very interesting how how actors can be utilized who are not necessarily that nationality to play the role, depending on, shade or color of skin. So we just leave that right there. That's neither here nor there in this discussion of this film.
Like, we'll watch a film and you'll see the interview. For instance, can't think of his name. Well, the actor that played on How to Get Away with Murder, the black lead, he's no longer on the show. He died off earlier in the season.
Yeah, he killed him.
But during the interview, we heard a British accent, right?
Right.
And then, so, yeah, you physically see the actor is one thing, but once you find out more about the actual person and not the character they played, you find that they're from other countries.
Other countries. Okay, so we kind of gave you background. This is what the film is about. It's about post Jewish Holocaust, and set in the 1960s, where trials have already happened, and it's 1961, and they're trying to basically kidnap this dude from out of Argentina to come back to be tried in Israel for war crimes against Jewish humanity. Okay, so that's the story. So before we went to go see the film, I told my wife, I said, okay, this is a film about the Jewish Holocaust, post-Jewish Holocaust, and there is no way that they will have anything in the film that has to do with white supremacy, racism, where it's targeted to black people. No way, because this is a story about the Jewish Holocaust. Now, we're getting ready to give some spoilers here. You know what I mean? Because, it has to be some spoilers here, because we're not 5 minutes into the film. We're not 5 minutes into the film before you get the anti-black reference in the film. Now remember, now this is a film about the Holocaust, post-Holocaust, and get back and revenge and bringing to justice those who committed the Holocaust. This is 5 minutes into the film. Now, guess what film they decided to show within the film to bring the anti-black reference up? Okay, let me set the scene. It cuts to a movie theater scene, and there's a young lady sitting in the movie theater, and she's watching the film. She's watching this film, and she's kind of relating herself to the character in this film.
Now,
and
her name is Haley Lou Richardson, and she's playing the character Sylvia Herman.
Okay, so she's relating herself to this person in this love story that's happening within the film, right? And she's like, you know, she likes the guy that's up on the screen. He's a blonde-haired, fair-skinned, blue-eyed guy, and she's relating to this love story that's happening up on the screen. Meanwhile, there are like maybe a few rows back to her left are like 3 or 4 guys sitting there watching the film, and amongst them is a blonde-haired, fair-skinned, blue-eyed person who is watching the film. Now, this is very slick the way this is done. I didn't think that any of the Jewish producers would be able to put any anti-black reference, because in any film that you watch, it doesn't matter what subject it is, I come to find out now, even in this subject, there will be an anti-black reference put into the film. You know, they will find a way. It could be a film about, of course, you know, Italians, The Godfather. And in The Godfather, you know, they could have just told the story about what it was, but somehow they found a way to say that they're just animals, so put the drugs in their community. They find a way. It doesn't matter what movie it is. It could be a movie about all white kids. The kids, remember that? The movie where they were out and they were homeless. They found a way to put references in there, and they weren't even dealing with black homeless kids. But somehow they will find a way to put an anti-black reference into a film.
Well, if you're a racist, you'll find a way to, or prejudice. It's gonna leak in, so it depends on.
Right, but at this point, if you prejudice, you have a preconceived notion. But getting into bigotry and racism, if you act upon it, then you are racist. So now, okay.
Now this scene introduces Adolf Eichmann's son.
That's right. It introduces Adolf Eichmann's son, who is the blonde-haired, fair-skinned, blue-eyed guy. Okay, so the film that they are watching, people. The film that they are watching, people, is Imitation of Life. That is the film that they are watching. They are watching Imitation of Life. You know, and they really wanted to draw in. Well, I'm not giving them anything. I'm not saying what it is, but I'm trying to say what they're trying to do. I'm going to say that there's parallelism within the story that's up on the screen and the young lady's story that's watching the film. The young lady's mother is actually a black woman,
Right.
and they're talking. I don't understand.
It's back.
Okay, so we're coming to the scene, and they're saying, he in the Imitation of Life, they're on the scene where he says, "I just need to know one thing," and she says, "What's that?" And he says, "Is it true that your mother's a nigger. That's what he says. And you know, back then they were putting that word. They were supposed to be progressive producers in Hollywood, and they were putting that word across to supposedly kill the stigma, but actually it was spreading the word in the lexicon for another 100 years. Okay, so it was quote unquote the soul.
It was just a way to be able to say the word.
That's right. It was just a way to be able to say the word and say, well, we have to keep it real and say the word. So we're going to keep it real right here and say the word. So he said, is it true that your mother's a nigger? And then she's shocked, and then it cuts to the young lady, and at first she has a smile on her face because she was looking at the love affair, but then all of a sudden she gets dismayed because, oh my God, and then 3 rows back from her to her left, the 3 boys start laughing. And they're laughing. Now, in this scene, whomever have seen Imitation of Life, he begins to start getting violent with this girl and starts to beat up on her. Now, you don't see that. They don't show you that, but you hear the sound of the movie as the girl is turning around and telling them to shh, shh. And at first, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy stops laughing. The other 2 keep laughing. And then he kind of smirks, and then she starts to laugh, and in the background you hear the sound of her getting roughed up by what was once her boyfriend, until he found out that she was passing as white. And then you hear this, and they're laughing.
You hear him beating her up, and this says a lot to me about the character of Sylvia Herman in the film, as well as the guys who were laughing at the scene where this young woman is being beat. Because who sits there and laugh when someone is being beat? You've got to be like a monster. So that says a lot about not only their character, you know, but her character as well.
Because she begins to laugh to go along with her vision of what is handsome, which was on the screen was blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair. And this guy is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair. And then you cut from out of the theater to them standing under a light on the curb outside of the movie theater, and they're talking. And this is how their relationship builds. But then I looked at it for a minute, and then I said, there's something that's going to have to do where their relationship is going to be similar to it. I just automatically said it. I wonder if she's not passing as white, but she's actually Jewish. So
yeah, because the thing is, I guess, you know, she made a connection with the guy in the theater once their eyes met, and what she was irritated about is his laughing during the film while this woman is being beat. She looks at him, she noticed that this guy is smiling at her, she feels there's a connection, but then it's like, okay, well, what type of person are you? Because what do you think? If this man is laughing at another woman being beat, then he's a brutal type person. But yet this is the person that she's attracted to. So I'll let you go on, but then you're not surprised how she's being treated in the film by him, because remind you, this is the same guy when you met him, he was smiling and laughing as a woman was being beat. But go ahead.
Initially laughing because the word nigger went across the screen, and thus but that lets you know through film is about telling you without needing to say it verbally. It's non-verbal communication. A lot of it is images. And so with them laughing when that came across, and then laughing at the beating that was happening,
it spoke volumes about their character, even before it began.
That's right. So their relationship begins there, and then it develops, and then at one point she introduces him to her father, who is a blind person. He's blind, but he says he tells him his name at the dinner table. He says, "So, what's your name?" And he says his name is what's his name?
He says.
See, I almost forget now because
Klaus Eichmann.
That's right. He says his name is Klaus Eichmann,
Right.
and he says, "Oh, Klaus Eichmann." He says, what did your father do?" And he says that his father died during the war, and he puts up some kind of excuse, and he says, "But I stay with my uncle."
Right.
And he says, "Oh, tell me more about your uncle."
Right.
And so then it cuts to the Israeli consulate, and the Israeli agents are in there talking about what this blind man has informed them of, that this young man has to be the son of Adolf Eichmann, because there was no record of Adolf Eichmann ever dying. And so they knew it had to be him, but they had to have proof because they had foils, they had situations before. That's how the movie opens up. It gives you the hook that they have an SS guard, but they kill him. He's not the one that they were looking for. They were looking for an SS guard with two boys. This SS guard had a boy and a girl, and after the one Israeli agent takes him out back and murders him, he says, "Well, what difference does it make?" And then the main character takes the blame for it and makes it seem like he takes the blame, and that's what's over his head throughout the whole movie. So that's the hook. All right, so they go through and they find this guy. But the main point of this, and what we're talking about first, is they found a way to put white supremacy, racism against a black body within the film, and there is no consequence to it. It's neither here nor there. People in the movie theater who are sympathizers, who are racist, could just laugh and have a guilt-free laugh, have a guilty pleasure, but guilt-free, by being able to laugh at this scene, because there's no reprimand put there to stop it. They laugh. However, so that's right there. That's set in stone. There is no redemption for the film after that. As far as black people are concerned, there is no redemption. That's why it pays to go see these films, to see what they are talking about you in, and that's why we went to go see the film. Also, I wanted to go see the film because I wanted to see a people in their right mind that go and get vengeance against those who did evil towards them. I wanted to see people in the right mind that would go out and get the people and bring them to justice, if not do worse to them in response to what was done to them. So that's what I wanted to see. And so why did you want to see the film?
For the same reason. And the film it started off, no, it didn't start off slow, kind of like in between, and then it gradually picked up, and it's not exactly what I thought it would be, but
tell them what you thought
I
it would be.
learned a lot. I thought that it would be the agents going after multiple Nazis, and I thought that they would go after them, hold them trial, and kind of like just, I don't know, kind of like I don't want to say revenge type film, but I thought that, hey, they're gonna go after all of these guys, and they're gonna take them in, for justice.
And Adolf Eichmann would be the tip of the...
He would be the tip of the iceberg, the main guy, but there were multiple people that they would get, that did his people wrong, that played a major part in the Holocaust. You know, especially since there were just a huge number of Nazis and Nazi sympathizers in Argentina. There's a huge community. So I just assumed that they would get them and take them back to Israel and make them have to face their crimes. But it was just this one guy.
And I thought that it would be a lot of more gunplay in the film, you know, as far as the agents, the Israeli agents, going out and eliminating some targets. That's what I thought. And even when a target was eliminated, you heard the sound effect, but it was off screen. And there was another scene happening as the gun pop went off. So it wasn't really a gunplay situation. So now, the parallelism that I was talking about in the film has to do with the girl who was laughing at Imitation of Life and the German guy. Come to find out, after he's introduced to her father and the father gets the name, in the office, you don't see this is all film, but they describe it in the film in the office that, so what did she do when she found out that she was actually Jewish? Because come to find out, the father, once escaping Nazi Germany, became a Catholic to mask who he is.
Imitation of Life.
Imitation of Life. So, unfortunately, as black people with a certain shade of skin, you cannot mask who you are. So
well, most of us can.
But I'm saying, but most of us can't, but we cannot mask who we are. Somehow it's going to come out. And even with people who pass, somehow that's going to come out to be proven that who you are. So that's here, and that's just a little interjection there. But she finds out that she's Jewish, and then he invites her to a Nazi sympathizer and Nazi dinner where the Argentine agent is speaking, who is giving asylum to all of the different SS guards and Nazi sympathizers and those who, like Adolf Eichmann, who were actually involved in the extermination of 6 million Jews. So he's there and he starts talking, and he says that this situation is, they're doing the same thing that they did in Germany. They're taking over the businesses, they own everything. So to a certain segment of Argentinians, the Jewish people coming in and having a savvy understanding of business and how business works, and businesses that were once Argentinian being taken over and run by Jewish people, you know, they found that to be just a slight bit unsettling and disturbing to them. So they began to not only be sympathizers, but began to plan situations where they could pick up where Adolf Eichmann left off as far as trying to exterminate Jews. That's how the story goes. But that's just letting you know the odds that the 6-man and 1-woman team were up against, that they were not gonna find any sympathy in Argentina as far as people being willing to, the Argentinians themselves being able to help you. But then there was a large contingent of Jewish people who were there, and they said, could we trust the Jewish people there? And they said yes, but you find out that money is the root of all evil. And so I'm not going to give a spoiler on that. That's not important. The spoilers that I'm giving has to do with her. So once she finds out that she's Jewish, she goes to this thing and they start doing this. So she runs out. So then they have a disagreement, and the scene sets up somewhat like Imitation of Life.
Right.
They do the same thing where you're looking through, there's a picture window and you can see whereas the girl was looking through the picture window in Imitation of Life, and the man was standing to his back to the picture window. In this one, the girl's back is to the picture window, and the man's is in the picture window, and you see the discussion going on through the mirror image and looking on to her directly, because she goes to a bus stop and he says, people are telling me that you're, and then she says automatically, yes I am.
Yeah. And
then she gets on the bus, and then that's it, and then that's where the story picks up, because they have the information now, they know it, and they run. So they run and they ultimately get him, and then it's a situation of trying to get out the country before they're caught by the Argentinian sympathizers, Nazi sympathizers, and Nazis. Okay,
who are sprinkled in throughout, like, the government, and these are Argentinians.
That's right. Now,
who are protecting and working with the Nazis and Nazi sympathizers. So
that's right.
Kind of blew me away. But
okay, so that's the setup of the film, and like I said before, I thought there was no way they would be able to put white supremacy, racism towards black people in this film. I thought it was no way, but they found a way through parallelism to tell the story. And whereas the black girl was ashamed when the Jewish girl found out she wasn't Catholic but Jewish, she was not ashamed, and she went actively in to help in what would be called during the Nazis' time, starting in 1939, the resistance. But now she was in the fight to make sure that the Nazis wouldn't succeed. And so that right there is something. Now, as far as the imaging and the photo, the cinematography of the film, beautifully shot. The use of colors to tell the story within certain scenes, beautifully shot. The opening credit sequence where they showed you through images and mapping images and through the hand of Adolf Eichmann how Germany took over this large area of Europe and in the places where they were exterminating Jews. Beautifully shot, telling the story, opening it up for you so you would know how large of a region in Europe was actually affected by and afflicted by Adolf Hitler, the Nazis, and the SS and the Nazi regime and their mentality towards Jewish people. Beautifully shot.
Yeah, and just the scenes, we're not gonna give it away. Some of the scenes are just like when they show scenes from the Holocaust are just horrific, and it's just, people are just monsters today. And when you look at the alt-right and white supremacists, and our president said, oh, there's good people on both sides, meaning those who were protesting and against the alt-right and white supremacists, right? And then the people who were on the other side, who were alt-right members and white supremacists, as well as other white organizations who were all chanting and negative stuff about black people, Jewish people, Latinos. So the president's saying that it's good people on that side too. So to just see this film and the horrific things that were done during the Holocaust. So these are good people, Mr. President. So I mean, it's just...
They also put some parallelism in as far as lynching was concerned.
Yeah.
They showed not only the gassing in trucks, but they also showed lynchings, which was interesting because I never knew that to be necessarily true. So I would have to do my research on that to see if they were actually lynching Jewish people too, because they used a reference where they lynched a Jewish woman, and I don't know if that's necessarily true. So now, what's interesting is they tell black people to forgive. Jewish people don't forgive. They say they never forget. Never again. They say never again, and they mean never again. But they always tell us that we want to, any of the other races tell the black race that just forgive, boom, boom, boom. When in the opening sequence, when the father is mistaken, he's a SS, he is a Nazi, but he was the wrong one. When he's shot, the little boy is looking out the window at the man who discovers that this was not actually the real man. He looks back and look at the boy. That boy is going to grow up to be filled with hate, be a hater, and be for his tribe. The same thing with Adolf Eichmann's son, when he walks out at the end of the film and next to the Argentinian flag, he puts up the Nazi flag.
Right.
He will grow up to be filled, well, he was already grown, a grown man of 19, 20 maybe, who will go on to fight for what he believes in, which is white nationalism, Nazism, because they took his father and they killed his father. And no matter what his father did, that is something that is on his mind. And so this passes on. We are told to be tribal amongst each other, but not to be tribal in the global sense against those who are tribal against us. Okay? So when you look at the psychology of like Trump, what my wife was talking about, he's saying there were good people on both sides. To the Nazi, or anyone who deals with, who are anti-Jewish and anti-black, to any of those people, any strides that are made by the people is considered racism by the hands of Jewish people who get businesses, black people who get businesses. That is considered racist towards them, because one of them is being cut from out of having a position, a job, a business, because it's being taken over by, to them, the other. Okay? Now we know that the Jewish community and the Jewish leaders and the Jewish state do not believe in giving an inch on anything that they have gotten back and what they acquire, and that they have no feeling for anyone else. This is our agenda. This is what it's about. We were Holocaust. 6 million. I would say that black people are told not to be that way, but we need to begin to push that agenda and be tribal. The Israel is tribal against the Palestinians. They're tribal against white supremacists, but then they practice their own brand of white supremacy against the Ethiopian Jews, who they are expelling now, and the Ethiopian Jews are the original Jews. Okay, so we'll leave that right there. So just some politics on that. So now, like I said, beautifully shot, sound quality, excellent, use of non-verbal communication, excellent, use of sound effects to get the point across, excellent. The interplay between characters, who's going to get the upper hand, who's not going to get the upper hand. It's a psychological thriller to see if they're going to get out. It's not an action movie because there's no gunplay, no fighting, but it's a psychological thriller to see if they're going to get out. Now, from what we've talked about, what would you rate the film?
I would give the film 6 or 7.
All right.
Maybe a 7. It was a good film. was a good film, but you know, of course, you leave out kind of just sad, because it's just like I said, you know, once you see this film, and the one scene where there's this meeting being held, and then you learn that it's just so many Nazis and Nazi sympathizers who lived in Argentina, you know, and you only see one that is taken back to Israel and who is held on trial
in 1962.
And then so it's just like, and in my mind, I'm like thinking about, well, what about all the rest of them, you know?
And what is that breeding over generations? What is that breeding into the Argentinians who were sympathetic, and then the Jewish people who were sympathetic to the Argentinians, and how that all breeds and how that's coming out. And you have to go look at the different Jewish leaders and where do they come from to go back to Israel, and what do they actually believe about black people, even though they were genocide was argued amongst them. Now for me, like I said all that, but I have to give, just for that first 5 minutes into the film, I have to give the film a 4. I really do. I mean, everything, notwithstanding the storytelling, excellent, but I have to give it a 4 because they rely on racist tropes without a resolution to the racist tropes, which leaves the audience to keep believing what they believe, and be able to get a chuckle out of this black woman who is passing. I don't care if she was passing, if she was black. I don't give a F about if she was passing or not. This was a black woman, and she was getting beat up, and they were laughing at it, and that is a psychosis and a mental illness that you would laugh at someone else. So automatically it gets a 4. But I suggest that we as black people go out and see this film and understand what we are dealing with. When you see the interweaving of what's happening, and you are able to break and extrapolate out and break the story down and pull out different elements, and you find out that what's really happening, and you say, wow, these people. So this not only happened in Argentina, these people spread out around the globe to hide from being captured, and some were successful in hiding, but they were able to spread their doctrine, their evil doctrine around. As well as some that are here in America. That's right. So, who were not doing it. And so when you see that and you realize that it's a Jewish producers and writers, and they put this element in at the beginning of the film, they really don't care. All they care about is what happened to the Jewish people in Germany, and making sure that the Jewish people in Israel live on, but they really don't care. So it's a 4, but go see this film. It's an eye-opener. And look for that trope in there, and look for the parallelism, and look for what we told you about, and you will be really enlightened after you look for that, and then you start the rest of the story unfolds. So this is where we're going to end this. Yes. This has been another interesting episode of the film review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to our minds. I'm Crazy Dee. Tracey. And we're out for now.